on Tuesday night, putting my daughter to sleep going, a week from today, I'm going to be at St Elmo's eating
Shrimp cocktail.
shrimp cocktail and talking.
I have
and as the center of the football universe lands at a steakhouse in Indianapolis and that city.
Yes. And I have a connection to the Patriots offensive coordinator at St. Elmo's Steakhouse. Okay. We'll save that for when we're out there.
This is the Buffalo Plus Podcast, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel here, sponsored by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, I'm Dan Fates. Jenna Cottrell resting up before the big week that we have. Mike and I will be heading out to Indianapolis for the NFL Combine. We love it. Jenna's not a big fan. That's why she's going to stay here manning the fort. Before we get started, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Really appreciate it. 85 subscribers away.
Yeah, we're closing
30K.
in.
So
Let's go.
Let's get there. This is a big push here. So we just wanted to talk real quick, come on here and preview what we expect to hear, what we want to hear, and kind of as we head to Indy. So if we start it, we know we're going to hear from Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott when we go to Indy. We'll start with you, Mike. What do you want to hear? Maybe we'll start with Sean McDermott.
Well, I want to start about the defense.
Yeah.
It was a year ago. We're setting up. We're ready for the Brandon Beane interview and the Sean McDermott interview.
Yeah.
The morning. It was a Tuesday. And then right before we're ready to go, notification again.
Yep.
As it always happens from the national guys, that Leslie Frazier is, I can't remember how it was phrased. Stepping away.
Yeah.
I love
from
that
coaching.
euphemism. Mutually parting of the ways.
Yeah. Exchanging of words.
Yes. That he was going to be gone. And we're like, wow, Leslie's gone. So we get with Sean, we get with Brandon Beane that day. And basically, we knew pretty fast it was going to be Sean McDermott.
Yeah.
And if Beane was comfortable with it, McDermott wanted to do it. Okay, so now let's fast forward to this. Bobby Babich has been named defensive coordinator. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
Is Babich calling the plays? Is McDermott not going to reveal that yet? Is it going to take some time to see how it progresses over the offseason? Has that already been decided? I find it interesting. I think offseason Sean might tell us a thing or two.
Offseason Sean is relaxed. He's calm. Like, this is the time where Sean cracks jokes and Brandon's much more.
Yeah, this is Beane's serious time.
Yeah, this is Beane's season. I know we've talked about it at length on this channel about Bobby Babich and the hiring and how we like the hiring, all those things. Mike, don't you think that decision would have already been made or at least discussed?
Because I think Bobby Babich wanted to know what his role was going to be.
Right? Like, I don't think that's something that's like, hey, man, we're going to hire you and we'll just play it by ear.
Yeah.
Like, I think, you know what I'm saying? Like, and Sean may say that. Like, we're going to take it one day at a time. You know, we're still working at a lot of things. But even when we were at the Combine last year and it was like, we'll see, but I would be comfortable calling plays. It was like, he's going to call plays.
Yeah. And then Brandon Beane said, I'd be comfortable with Sean calling plays.
Yeah.
Look, I know you guys love finding everything Sean McDermott does wrong. And he does things wrong. I think he's an elite play caller on defense.
Elite.
He's really good at it. Perfect? No.
Correct.
But he's really good. He's a better play caller than Leslie Frazier.
Yeah.
Didn't mean he's overall better. He's a better play caller. Now, it also adds to all the other things he's got going on during a game.
Yeah.
And Babich, to me, seems like the kind of guy who is built for this. I just think he is. I think they like a lot of what he does. And it does not mean that Sean then, if he does say, you know, the plan is to have Bobby call the plays.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean Sean goes and, you know,
radio silence on the headset
or, you know, reads a novel during the week.
Yeah.
He's going to be involved.
Yeah.
He's the head coach. He's going to be involved. He's a defensive coach, one way or the other. So, but I'll be interested to hear how they phrase it and what they say.
Could it be Andy Reid-esque in the sense of there's somebody that calls the plays, but has his hand in on everything?
You know what's fascinating now? We've moved on offense to, you know, multiple coaches on a staff. And offensive coordinator. Then there's the passing game coordinator, and the
Running
run game coordinator.
Yeah.
That's moved over to defense too.
Yeah.
You will see teams naming defensive run game
Yeah.
coordinators. I mean, there's a lot of coaching that goes into this. I swear, sometimes I do believe people think, they'll say about calling plays, and the game has progressed to, it's probably too complicated. But it's
Probably.
not as simple as blitz on this play. Like, this is not 1958 here.
Yeah.
It's a complicated game, so there are a lot of hands in it.
Yeah.
And McDermott's going to be with his hands in it. But the idea of the
Yeah.
play calling and a lot of that in-game decision-making based on what they've already mapped out, I want to see Babich get that role. I want to see them start the offseason feeling that way. But let's hear what he has to say.
Yeah. It's interesting because Sean at this time of the year, he's kind of the overseer of, I think he's switching more to combine mode. Like he's scouting players when he comes here, and they both are, but like Beane's got to have, he's juggling a lot of things at once because he's going to have free agency. He's talking about re-signing extensions, reworking contracts, all of those things. Like Sean's here to evaluate talent when he comes to Indy.
He is. I don't think he pays that much attention to it.
You don't think about the players that come in?
I don't think that's a Sean thing. I really don't. I think
I think it starts now. I think that's where it starts, because we've talked about him before, and he's like, I haven't looked at the cornerback class. I haven't looked at this class.
Okay, so you got a guy and his staff who have spent the whole offseason looking at guys.
Correct. This is where Sean,
I think he likes to walk in the room, I think, with certain players. When they're talking to Terrell Bernard 2 years ago, he wants to know what kind of dude this is.
Yeah.
If he's going to be. I think that he says to himself, I trust Brandon. I have an opinion. I like looking at it. He's not breaking down all the tape on the college guys.
I do find that always interesting, is that we always think of them too as so simpatico, and then that they're working together.
Yeah.
I think, like, especially when it comes to a lot of these roster decisions and signing players or hiring, drafting, and all those things, I think it's a lot of Beane.
Yeah.
I think that's what sometimes gets lost in the mix of, like, they have to agree on everything. Like, I think a lot of times it's Sean's the last guy to know about some of these players, because Sean has so many other things on his plate during the season when Beane and everybody else are watching college football games and all of that.
And don't take this the wrong way. I mean, Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane have discussions where he's like, I need speed here.
Yes.
I need this. We need this. Yeah. I don't trust player X to play this many snaps, whatever that is. Believe me, before Brandon Beane then decides not just to draft, that I'm going to go and re-sign AJ Epinesa.
Right.
I'm just using as an example. He knows what Sean McDermott feels about that guy.
Yeah.
And this is where Sean's opinion weighs heavily in what they decide to do with players. But these discussions go on during a year too.
Correct.
This is not like, hey, I had no idea you thought this guy couldn't play. So I think all that plays into it. But be honest with you, I hear Sean sometimes, and I'm like, I think he comes to the combine, but I don't think he's like all in on all these guys.
I think he gets in this week. I think this week that's his sole focus.
But I think he also respects the process, scouts and Beane,
and the
that
process.
This is what they do.
Yes.
And then we see how it plays out. So
we'll also hear from Brandon Beane.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about it. What I would like to hear, expect to hear, kind of things like that, is Brandon Beane he gives you a soundbite and he tells you what is on his mind, but he always leaves a little bit off. He never tells you everything, is kind of what we always look at it. And I want to know what the plan is for this offseason. And I mean that in the sense, as I've talked about it, I think there's a ton of pressure on him this offseason to manage the cap, to bring in speed, to compete and reload as the Chiefs have gone into their second dynasty. They have found a way and made moves and got rid of Tyreek Hill and have improved defensively when they needed to. And they've taken a step back offensively, but I want to know what Brandon Beane and how his approach is heading into the offseason of, where do you prioritize your moves and what you're going to do? Is it, hey, I'm looking internally at guys like AJ Epinesa, Daquan Jones, some of these other things? Is that step one? Where is restructuring contracts? Step 2 is, are you looking externally then at free agency? Are you then looking at the draft and seeing, hey, look, this is a deep class at wide receiver. It's not deep at defensive tackle. So am I going to now have to look, hey, because there aren't a ton of defensive tackles in the free agent market, is that when I'm going to look at, hey, we got to get a D tackle in one of these first 2 rounds because after that, the floor drops off. I wonder where he ranks those things heading into it.
Yeah, the fortunate thing is one happens, the majority of it happens before the other.
Right.
So if you go into it saying we're targeting this free agent defensive tackle, like I do believe, and I'm not calling out a specific player, I'm saying is they may have their eyes on a D tackle
in free agency
that may not be, not like, it's not like they're, well, Chris Jones is, I think they're going to tag him, whatever I'm not saying this is like they're going big time.
Right.
They may have a guy that like day one of free agency, the Bills make a move on.
Yes.
This is just because they're saying is this guy, we like who he is, whatever the reason is, he's going into his second contract. We think he fits us better.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. We're going to go get him. Day one, day two, take care of that. Because we don't know how the board's going to play out. And it frees them up maybe to look at wide receiver without having to say, to your point, if there's only a few defensive tackles and you know you really need one.
Well, that's what
you don't want to be sitting there at 28 going, do we have to trade up to get this guy?
And that's what I'm saying is I think you look at classes by position and say, hey, look, we're happy with any of the top 12 wide receivers, but we're only happy with 2 defensive tackles. So like, do we have to attack the defensive tackle in free agency? Like you were saying, and things like that. That's what I'm curious about, how he approaches the steps in order. This isn't a year where a lot of times, the last few years, we've gone in being like, hey, you know, where are you at with Tremaine? Where are you at with some of these extensions? There's not really that talk going into this year. Obviously, Ed's, they got that Ed Oliver deal done. So I'm wondering, like, what do you handle in that order? Like, what's Brandon Beane's to-do list is what is interesting to me.
You don't think his to-do list is to release Diggs and Von Miller?
Correct.
Right away and not care about the $300 million of dead cap hit?
Yeah, I think that's what they should do first. I'll tell you what, that Bird app has been something lately.
Yeah. I mean, you have people just throwing stuff out there, especially Diggs. And I get it. They love the Diggs part. But I'm talking about respected people in this league who just toss out about trades. I saw an ESPN report where they were talking about what the Bills will do in the offseason. And very casually, they mentioned a Diggs trade and would they consider releasing Von Miller? I'm like, if those 2 things happen, and it was even with June 1 thrown in there where you can push it back.
Yeah.
For the first year, I think you'd be talking about, I don't know, $50, $60 million of dead cap space. Like that's not happening.
And dead cap's real.
Yes. Yes. Dead cap is real.
That's the other thing too. And maybe this is just me for a second getting on the soapbox because it is funny. We do like to make this joke. And I think we've talked about it a couple of times, but I was talking to Greg Thompson of Cover One, and I make the joke that the salary cap isn't real because that's simpler than explaining the actual complexity of how you can manipulate the salary cap and how you can get creative. So I say that it's not real and joke around like it's like Bigfoot or a unicorn because of that. But when somebody says that, like, you don't know what you're talking about, like the salary cap is real, I'm not dumb on the actual topic of the salary cap. I've looked into it a lot. And for anybody that wants to actually like talk about it, like I would gladly get in discussion, but like we've talked about it, like, do you know how much money owners have to set aside of a percentage of every player's contract? They have to put in an escrow account. Like all of these things matter. The liquidity of your owner matters. The ability of them to cut checks matters into how your GM's able to maneuver the salary cap. That's why I joke around saying that it's not real, is because actually understanding it is very difficult to explain in a tweet. So it's a whole lot easier to say it ain't real.
It's like taxes. Taxes are real. Wealthy people who have cash and have the ability to move money around end up in our system as the people who pay less in taxes. And I'm not talking about anyone specifically here, but you may know some of those people. It is the accounting of the money. And the ability to do that maybe takes money to save money.
Exactly.
And that's what they do. So in the cap, to your point, if you have the cash and you're willing to spend the cash and you're willing to kick it down the road, then you are then spending more cash. You're just
Correct.
spreading it out and waiting for those other big checks to come in from the TV networks and the streaming networks.
Like, I think I have a pretty good understanding of the salary cap just from, I actually have researched it before I just sound like a complete idiot. But the sense of Greg Thompson of Cover One, we were talking about it yesterday, and he goes, the best analogy he had, and I give him all the credit to this. He's a really smart guy. He said that it's like having 6 credit cards. Okay. So you can move your money around. And everybody says, well, eventually you have to pay up. But as you go on, that's not factoring in the salary cap going up. So he goes, it's like you're getting promotions and raises as you spend money and your interest on your credit cards grow and you move it around. Unless you get demoted and you don't then all of a sudden get that promotion that you were banking on, then you can become in salary cap trouble.
Right.
But you can always kind of move it around. So I give Greg the credit because I thought he said that was the best way that he's explained it. I've joked around about it's like trying to nail smoke to a wall. It's very difficult to understand, but that's just what I'm saying.
So I watched the video that they just put out. It was good with Greg. And if I'm not mistaken, he says if Beane did everything on the list that he could do in terms of restructures, pay cuts, all these things, he could take the Bills this year from 50 million over the cap to 30 plus million under the cap. Poof. Poof.
Yeah.
Create space. Does it cause an issue in 2026 and 27?
It's future Brandon Beane problems.
Yeah. Let's go ahead.
Yeah. And 2 quick things before we wrap up. Obviously, we'll have tons of content at the Combine. Like, comment, subscribe to, before we get going there. Sean McDermott was named to the competition committee today because Vrabel and Belichick are no longer on it. So McDermott got added.
Isn't it funny that Belichick was on the competition committee? He knows how to
maneuver the competition.
Just like the cap.
How about that?
He can figure it out. Yeah, interesting. Interesting for the two of them to get on there. That's good for Sean.
It's good for Sean.
Good for him. And the other news of the day. Matt Araiza.
The punt god.
To the Chiefs. Listen, we don't really know Matt Araiza. He was around him very little. It was bad circumstances. The Bills reacted. There's a lot of you that think they should have kept him, brought him back, whatever you think. Legally, he has no issue. It's dropped.
Correct.
The lawsuit is dropped. He's in the clear. For many reasons, I see why he was never back with the Bills.
And I think we talked about it too. It wouldn't have been good for him to come back to the Bills.
No, he's better off in another place. Unfortunately for him, it's been 2 years.
Absolutely.
And I have nothing. I didn't. We were going by the information that we had.
That's all we had.
And the same with Beane at the time. Now he goes to the Chiefs, which it's like they're just trolling everybody.
A little bit.
And he may be really good. We don't know how he's going to be as a kicker. He's got a great leg.
Yep, he had a preseason here.
He can boom the ball. There's things to learn, but he's also had a couple of years to do this. I hope for the guy he does great. Go ahead. It is. It is just interesting the way it played out over this 2 years.
Yeah. So he's back in the NFL in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So we will hear from Brandon Beane, from Sean McDermott. We will eat steak. We will talk about it at St. Elmo's.
So St. Elmo's, have you have clicked on the menu?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was sitting there on Tuesday night, putting my daughter to sleep going, a week from today, I'm going to be at St. Elmo's eating
shrimp cocktail
and talking.
I have
as the center of the football universe lands at a steakhouse in Indianapolis and that city.
Yes. And I have a connection to the Patriots offensive coordinator at St. Elmo's Steakhouse. Okay. We'll save that for when we're out there. Maybe we'll see him there.
How
He'll
about
be
that?
there.
Yeah.
So
see Dable too.
That's it.
All right. Appreciate it as always as we preview what we're going to expect to hear at the NFL Combine. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. For Mike Catalana, I'm Dan Fates. Jenna Cottrell getting a break. See you next time here on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel.
Buffalo Plus, your interactive look at the week in football, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.